Instead, governments have done this notoriously for long periods of time. They cause bubbles and give false sense of prosperity. And traditionally, even in this country, when it would happen, then the correction had to come. The government would just keep their hands off, and there would be a bad year, and people would go back to work again. But during the Depression, and more recently in our history, our governments have, and politicians, and actually pressure from the people, have always been, you got to do something, you got to do something. You can't allow any bankruptcies. You can't allow any of these corrections. The only thing that does is prolong the agony. And the Depression lasted from the 1930 all the way up to 1946. And because we didn't keep our hands off, we kept interfering. And today, now, again, even though they come up and they say the GDP is starting to go up and we're not in recession anymore, the trouble is I can't find anybody in the country that really believes what the government's telling us. They say there's economic growth and there's no inflation. And the other night we were on a TV program, and he says, "What do you mean, Ron? Why are you worried about inflation?" He says, "There's only 2%. I said, "That's what the government tells you. Have you ever gone shopping?" But there's a lot of prices going up, and that has a lot to do with the value of your money going down. But one example that I use to justify my suggestion that you do something rather dramatic. Some people call it extreme, but I don't call it extreme because I think the extremists have been running our government for too long. So my proposal on the first year is a modest cut of $1 trillion out of the budget. If you're running a business or you take over a business and they're on the ropes and they're virtually in bankruptcy, how many of them would go out and say, well, you know, you guys are really messed up. I'm going to get you out of trouble. I'm going out and borrow a lot more money for you. No, you don't do that. That doesn't work, and it doesn't work for government. Some people say, well, the solution is Keynesian economics teaches, well, we're in a recession because you, the consumer, won't spend your money. Well, what if you're being cautious? What if you're planning for your retirement? What if you lost your job? What if you just, follow common sense? But no, they want the consumer to spend. But they can't spend if they don't have a job. So cutting spending is really what has to be done, and that's what they don't face up to. I have chosen, we have way too many departments in Washington. I've chosen getting rid of at least 5 the first year. And I haven't met too much resistance on that, on occasion a little bit, but for instance, one department is the Department of Education. That's a rather recent department. What I don't like is how some of these things came into existence. The Department of Education, if the people of this country wanted the federal government to run our education, what they should have done was to amend the Constitution. There's no authority for the federal government to run our educational system. And yet they do, and we spend billions of dollars. The price of education goes up and the quality goes down, but it really doesn't solve the problem. But there's 2 problems that the federal government taking over. That to me is bad, but the fact you just ignore the Constitution, that is bad, and that's what gets into trouble. So cutting spending is very, very important. But I believe that we still should have priorities. I don't know whether we're going to work our way out of it, but I work on the assumption that's what we should try to do. Cut back, have priorities, try to work our way out, get our jobs back again, get jobs for these college kids that are getting out and owe all this money. But what's suggested? Oh, let's just bail them out. Put the taxes on the people that didn't go to college or something. But this can't, this obviously can't work, and what we have to do is actually cut. But it's priorities. Now, the priorities I would work very hard to protect, and I've done this, over the years as a member of Congress. I would work real hard not to address and put on top of the list of cutting anything where the elderly have become dependent, or medical care dependency on the elderly, or medical dependency on children. Now, some of those programs probably should have never been started, but I still think if you're going to work your way out, let's have a transition. For instance, I wouldn't cut any benefits to the elderly. but I would offer the opportunity of anybody 25 or under to get out of Social Security if they wanted to. And go on. The big question is, oh, the young people, hey, they have to pay for my upkeep, so they better stay in the system. Where is the money going to come if you're going to try to at least tide over some people, take care of them that are very dependent? And that's why I suggested cutting 5 departments, Department of Education, Department of Energy, HUD, and a few others. And that would be a big savings, still not enough. I think where the biggest savings should come from, and the easiest, it would build our national defense, make us a lot more secure, and that is start looking at and cutting this runaway military budget of ours. I believe in the first year, a 15% cut in military spending. Not one nickel out of defense, because this military spending is just military spending. Even with that, we would have 5 times as much money as the country of China is spending on their military. If you take what we spend and our allies spend on military right now, it's 70% of all the military expenditures in the whole world. How many more weapons do we need? How many times do we have to be able to blow up the world? We don't need more weapons. We need more wisdom in our foreign policy. Military budget, and that's the one that we see the most, but the war budget, that's set aside, that's an off-budget type of item. Then you have the State Department, and then you have the CIA budget, which is secret. You have all these things, and it comes over to $1 trillion a year, on our activities overseas. All the international organizations, the UN and IMF, right now the IMF is used for bailing out these other countries. That's all foreign aid. It's money that shouldn't be spent. Even if, ideally, if we were very, very wealthy, which we were at one time, thinking that it would never hurt, it's different now. We're broke, and we have to have priorities. That is why I say foreign policy has to change. If you're going to change your foreign policy, you don't want to spend that money, it's time to bring our troops home. Over 10 years, 65% of the American people agree with us on bringing the troops home. That wasn't true 5 years ago. It certainly wasn't true 8 years ago. But people are coming around to this because they know how much trouble that we're in. And if we just said, we'll go to war if we need to, if we have to defend our country, but do it properly. The other day somebody asked me, and they thought they really got me, because they thought that I would never use military might, to defend our country. Well, that's a prime responsibility of a president, to defend the country. He says, okay, there's a big problem in the Panama Canal, there's a big fight, and he, it built it up, be extremely dangerous and may affect our national security. And he says, what would you do? And I think what he wanted was, well, I would immediately have the bombers get in the air and send them down there. I said, well, I would look at it, I would find out what's going on and find out the details, and I would go to the Congress and ask them if they think this country needs to go to war. And if they come down and say they should go to war, then we all should be behind it and go and fight it and win it and get it over with, and don't just carelessly get involved in these wars. Like under NATO, the United Nations, we should go only to war under the proper administration, and that is through your Congress action.